Welcome back, folks. In this video, we will talk about how to make your enemy move. Let's preview the game. As you can see here, our enemy is stationary. Let's change that. There are a lot of ways of doing it. We'll go over a couple of basic ones. Let's double click on our enemy, go to behaviors, and add a behavior. There, we will search movement. As you can see here, you will have a lot of options. Some of the more popular ones are ellipse movement for flying objects, like maybe birds. The other ones are linear movements, rectangular movements. The one we'll be using today is timed back and forth movement. Please note, your animation should be facing left. So let's click on timed back and forth movement. We will say moving distance. Let's leave it as 200 pixels. Moving speed is fine, and maximum moving time is 2 seconds. That's fine as well. As I mentioned before, your animation should face left. So if you play the animation and you see that your character is moving backwards, just go to your animation, edit with Pisco, and just flip vertically. This button right here. Okay, then save and apply. So we applied the timed back and forth movement behavior. So let's click preview. And as you can see over here, our enemy is moving left and right. And as you can see here, it's changing its direction of movement based on the eyes. Okay, so that's the first way of doing it. That's the simplest one. Now let's double click on it. Let's delete it. Let's click OK. The other way of doing it, and more flexible way of doing movement for your enemy characters, is hard coding it. So let's create a new object. It will be a sprite. We will call it right. We'll create it with Pisco, and we will draw an arrow pointing to the right. Click Save, Apply. Then we will create a new object, sprite. This one we will call left. Create a new object. We'll draw an arrow pointing left. Click Save, click Apply. Let's drag it on a map. So what we want to do is, when our enemy is moving to the left or to the right and hits one of these arrows, it will turn around. So let's double click on our enemy. Let's go to variables, and a variable, and we'll call it direction. And it's gonna be a text, and let's call this one left, or you can call it right, or you can call it whatever you want to do in your specific situation. We will call it left. Click apply. So what we want to do now is, when our enemy is moving to the left, or our enemy is facing left, we wanted to give some force to make it move. So let's go to our events. We will add a new event, add a condition. Here we will create a new event group. We will call enemy movement. We will make this a child. So now we say when a variable of an object, so this one, so when a variable of our enemy, and the variable is direction, is equal to left, don't forget the quotation marks. So when the variable of enemy is left, we want to add force to our enemy on x-axis, so left to right. So the variable is left, so we want our character to move left. That means we need to give minus 100 pixels, and speed on y is 0. We'll make it instant. If, for example, we want to move our character to the right instead, this will be positive 100. Click OK. And the number here is whatever you want it to be. It could be minus 1000, minus 500, whatever you want. So what's going to happen here is, if the variable of enemy is left, add force to enemy to move it at 100 pixels per second on x-axis. That means moving to the left. So let's go back to our level. Let's preview. and we will see that our enemy is going all the way to the left. However, when he hits the arrow, nothing happens. So let's fix that. What we want is when our enemy hits the arrow right, it will turn to the right. Let's go back to our events, and we will say, a new event, when there is a collision between enemy and arrow right, when there's a collision between enemy and arrow right, we want flip our enemy horizontally. So click yes, click OK, flip horizontally, and then we want to add force to our enemy in the positive x direction, meaning plus 100, and still 0 on y-axis, and still instant. So when the variable of our enemy is left, we want to add force to our enemy and move it to the left. When it collides with the right arrow, we want it to flip horizontally and move to the right. And here, we actually need to remember to change our variable. So let's add an action. Variable for an object, enemy, direction. We will set it to right. Click OK. Let's add a new event. So now, when the variable of the object, enemy, is equal to right, we want it to move to the right. So let's drag this right here and move it all the way over here. And then one more statement here. When the enemy is in collision with left, so when enemy is in collision with left, okay, we don't want it to flip horizontally, right? Because it's already facing left. So we're gonna copy this and paste, drag it over here. We say don't flip because the default is facing left. And then we want to change the variable, Control C, Control V, bring it down. Now it's gonna go left. So what's happening here is if the variable of the enemy is left, we want the enemy to move to the left. When it collides with the right arrow, we want our enemy to flip horizontally, so it's facing to the right, and then change the variable direction to right. If our direction is right, then move the enemy to the right. As it's moving to the right and is in collision with the left arrow, we don't want the enemy to flip any longer because the default is facing left. And then we change the direction to the left. And then repeats because we already changed it to the left, it's going to move to the left. Okay, so let's go to level 1. Let's preview. We will zoom out and look. Here we go. Just like that. Okay. And you can move it faster or you can move it slower, whatever you want. Now let's do one more thing. Let's hide these arrows. So we will add an event right here. We'll drag it to the top and we say, at the beginning of the scene, we want to hide right arrow, then Control C, Control V, and left arrow. Let's go back to our level. Let's preview. Right click, and as you can see here, the arrows are hidden, but our enemy is moving. And you can place those arrows anywhere you want. All right, that is all for this video, folks. See you next one.